No, I think, I mean, say 100 years ago, before the urbanization, the industrialization, people had a different perception of excreta, human excreta. People lived closer to nature. People had animals, cows, pigs. So they saw animal manure as a resource to be returned to the land. And in that context, of course, you can say the people's manure was mixed with the animal manure returned to the land and seen as a resource. But as we have departed and returned into urban environments, leaving sort of nature behind, we have a different perception of human excreta. We also learned about the danger, and I mean the improvement in health over the past 100 years is to a large extent because we have been better at managing our pathogens, in the sense that we get it out of our immediate neighborhood. So we don't realize the human waste is as a resource. We see it as a polluting issue, a dangerous issue to get rid of, right? So we have delinked waste, human waste, the excreta, from the land, and it's the value it has as fertilizer. And people don't understand today. People don't know that the nutrients, the NPKs of human urine and feces, basically is sufficient to grow the food we require to live. Because the nutrients are not absorbed by the body, they only pass through the body, right? So the grain you can grow on the nutrients your own body produce is sufficient for your survival, which is an interesting closed loop. And when you tell this to people, they have no clue about it whatsoever. And they have no clue whatsoever about the fertilizer value of human excreta. And this is, I think it's an important message to introduce, because if you can talk about human waste, not as waste, but as a resource, then you can also talk about sanitation in a very different way. We need, I think, to repacket sanitation and not always link it with water, but focus much on the household's own ability, using their own resources to improve their living conditions. And one of the main, I think, issues people want to improve is their toilets. And as a part of that comes the improved hygiene. As there has been such a strong focus on water, sanitation has been added on in a pretty simplistic way, and often, like for water, only one solution, one choice has been given to families. And sometimes sanitation has even been forced on families as a precondition for getting water. And as we know, that's not a very good way of creating ownership and taking on responsibilities for operation and maintenance. Poverty is for sure a major obstacle to sanitation. And you can see, I mean, who suffer the most? For sure, that's the poor people. And among the poor people, I would say it's women and children that are most affected by the poor sanitation. So, I mean, what you see in really poor areas, the urban slum, the rural periphery, rural primary schools, rural clinics, the sanitation situation is so appalling that I think we can't imagine in the north what it's really like to live without having some sort of toilet facility where you can go in privacy without being exposed and threatened. And I think in the development process we have been too keen on introducing say, the latrine as a building, rather to introduce toilets as a sanitation system, right? Where it's not necessarily the structure that matters. It's rather how you deal with the hygiene, and you deal with the excreta. That is the process that is really important, right? The important thing is to sanitize the excreta, and specifically then it's the feces that has to be made safe. But that has not really been the focus. The focus has rather been on constructing, building latrines, and less effort has really been placed on the functioning of them. In the drive for modernization, everyone has been excited about the WC, the water toilets, which is the extremely convenient way, of course, from a family's perspective. You flush and forget. But you don't consider what happens after then, you know. And we have today in the third world promoting systems that are extremely polluting to the environment. And I think we need to rethink really to find systems, sanitation systems that are healthy both for people and the environment. But in our efforts to improve health, we have focused so much, so to say, on the health issues and the conditions within the household that we forget there is actually a pipe leading out of the house with all the excreta, all the pathogens, and they have never been dealt with. And in cases there has been the ambition to build complete sanitation systems with treatment. The ability often to operate those in the third world is limited. I think we have been single-minded in promoting one technology which hasn't worked very well in the north to the south without realizing the consequences. And it's very difficult, I think, to envisage a future in the south where you have short of money, short of water, to introduce systems of the kind we have difficulties in the north to manage today. An interesting issue on alternative sanitation, ecological sanitation or sustainable sanitation, whatever you call it, is that you broaden the perspective of sanitation. Sanitation is not only anymore the issue of getting rid of pathogens, it's also the issue of returning nutrients to the land. It's the issue of providing safer toilets in the sense that you have very shallow pits, no risk to falling into them. They are, from a security perspective, preferred because you can build these toilets very close to the house, and we have many examples. You actually build in your house these toilets, just like a WC, and you don't have to walk long distances in the night and be exposed to threats and what happens, rape and so on. So you see different rationales why you should build a toilet. It's not only the issue of improving the health, the issue is getting fertilizer, the issue is getting the security, and a very, very important issue is, of course, from a women's perspective, the dignity, right? That you have privacy, you have a facility you can use 24 hours a day, you don't expose yourself to neighbors and unfriendly people looking for a toilet, looking for a place to defecate. We must remember, I mean, for the past 100 years, basically, there has been no efforts whatsoever in developing a sanitation systems of the dry kind. This has only been thought of in the context of developing countries. And I think that's the wrong path, because a waterborne sewage system can be claimed to be unsustainable in the north and in the south.